And again, today, like I said to you, I'm just going to share with you, if you could just change the slide, please. Thank you. So just as we get started, folks, let me give you a little bit of a background, just so you have a sense of where I'm coming from. I studied at BSS. I'm an alumni of the institution. I know I owe so much to the university, to the college. I started my career in consulting. I was extremely lucky to then get opportunities to move to the US with PricewaterhouseCoopers. I worked to set up new consulting practices. I had the opportunity to work across Singapore, Japan, much of Europe, the United States, perhaps the chance to work with the largest of the larger firms around the world. So my clients have included Fortune 100 organizations. I then came back with Deloitte to India to help set up the consulting practice in India, and was extremely lucky, then very fortunate to move on to Serco Group PLC on the board of what's called the Africa, Middle East, Asia and Africa division, driving growth, driving strategy, and then became the group strategy director in London. Now that's a large organization. It was a FTSE 100 organization at that time, about 5 billion pounds in Indian rupee terms, about 50,000 crores in turnover, over 100,000 people. So I came from where you are sat, went into consulting, went to work for a very large organization, and then at a stage became a partner with KPMG, headed a practice there, and then decided that it was time for me to help grow an organization. So joined an organization which was about 150 people strong at that time as the chief executive officer, as someone who was going to scale up that organization, as someone who was a principal shareholder of that organization, so invested in it, and then built a company called Candela Labs, a high-tech firm focused on financial technologies, focused almost entirely on insurance, scaled it up, and then earlier this year was able to showcase what you would call typically in the press a dream exit. One of the world's top private equity firms, Apex Partners, bought the firm out. And with that, I moved to Azentio, where I am the group chief operating officer. So the reason I tell you this story is because none of you should think that, oh, this is what we'd like to be. You should be thinking, how are we going to do even better than that? And don't give up that dream. Don't think you're coming out of Bhopal or you're coming from BSS and there's anyone else who could be better. So that's absolutely essential for you to know that where you are today, the inputs that you get, the place where you're starting from is absolutely, it's a great springboard. It's a great starting point. Do not doubt yourself. If we can move the slide, please, to the next one. Okay. So, folks, we live in an entirely different world today. So if you just start by first focusing on the fact that globally, there's a shift in global economic power. India is, there's without doubt, don't worry about what the press says or doesn't say. India is likely to be, within the next few years, the world's second largest economy. And with that comes trade, with that comes opportunities, with it comes the ability for you to build extremely strong careers to make a difference. Of course, I'm also talking to you in very different times. When I passed out in 1994 to when we are, and in 2021 that we're talking about in 2022 is just right on the anvil, the world has changed a lot. There are so many emerging sectors. The global economy has changed so much. And we'll talk a little bit about that, but please do step back and think about that. The traditional sectors that we used to talk about when we were growing up, they look very different today. And of course, the David versus Goliath, which is the story of someone small beating someone really huge, big, disproportionately large. Well, that's being seen every day today. You see startups on a daily basis take on big, large organizations, i.e. the power equations have changed, and that creates with itself huge opportunities for folks like yourselves. The second bit I'd like to talk about is just when you think about your careers, when you think about the next 30 years, when you think about what am I going to do remember, first, huge shift in global economic power, but second, growing urbanization, right? Climate change and a changing social order. So the world around us is changing faster than we can see, because we're in that change. We're living that change. You have to step back and think of what's happening here. Aging populations, what can we do to support them? Huge opportunities that will come out because of that. In fact, those opportunities are here. More than 50% of the population of the world today lives in cities, and we're adding a 1.5 million people to cities every week. What does that mean? What kinds of opportunities does that create? And it's not just the fact that people are moving into the cities and opportunities are being created in the cities. How do you then support the villages? How do you support the towns, the smaller towns from where these people are coming from? There's also in all of this, sustainability today is such a large part of the debate and the discussion that we have. It's such a large part of the focus that we as professionals need to drive. As the global population grows, whether it's water scarcity, whether it's food, whether it's energy, all of those things will shape the next decade and the decade after. So even by 2030, we need 35% extra food, we need 40% extra water, we need 50% extra energy. Again, why am I saying this to you? Because this creates the kinds of opportunities. If you step back, close your eyes, look at the world around you, you know where the opportunities are going to come from. You know what context you're going to work in. One note of caution though, don't take globalization for granted. Work towards it, take the opportunities, think big. Don't just think Bhopal or the next city. Think of the globe as and the world as your oyster. You choose where you'd like to work, what you'd like to do. Don't constrain yourself, but don't take globalization for granted. There will be, and there are forces at work which tend to pull this whole globalization piece back, if you will, where there are people questioning globalization. So just take that, just keep that at the back of your mind, but play on the play field, create the play field for yourself, the pitch for yourself, which is global in nature. The third change, if you will, that we must be aware of is that there is accelerating technological change and convergence today. Data really is the new oil. That's just not a catchy phrase, if you will. So everything that we do has data in it, and knowing how to leverage that, how to capitalize data is really important. Digital today is not just about a technology. It's not about doing a program, a course. It is where the society is headed. So if you've been reading about the metaverse, if you've been reading everything that's happening in the world, which is digital, and we all know it intrinsically, we know that we live our lives on iPads and phones and things of that nature. But remember, the entire world is going digital. And that leads us to this third big trend, if you will, convergence across sectors. Is it auto? Is it telecom? Or is it technology? When cars talk to each other, when Internet of Things is right here in front of us, everything has technology built into it today. Built into it. And again, as you think about your careers, as you think about growth, as you think about where am I headed, what am I going to do, remember, these are skills that are absolutely essential. So you may be doing something in the area of humanities, which is absolutely brilliant. Remember that reading about data, knowing how to leverage data, about digital, and understanding the convergence of sectors is absolutely critical. So before, when I passed out, a very different world. It was traditional. There was, you went out for a certain kind of a job. You thought of a certain kind of a career progression. No more the case. And like I said, right up front, the topic of this address itself, the world is your oyster. You go define your futures and think big. If you change the slide, please. So there is a great power shift that's happening, and let's try and understand what that means for you, what that means for us. So the first power shift that we need to recognize is the power changing between how it was shared between corporations and the employee. It was asymmetrical. We went looking for a job. We sat in an interview. The company decided, right? And the company set out some rules. If you had to wait X hours for it, the employee, the individual has as much, if not more, power today. How do you get there is what you need to think through. What will I take? What will it take for me to get there? Right? And I don't say it lightly, you do have the power. Okay. Now, when you have that power, again, remember that as an employee, the word employee itself is not a good word today. You're a colleague, you're someone who's adding value to an organization. Like to work in, you choose the kind of jobs that you'd like to do, but on the other hand, you will have to differentiate yourself and you will have to take charge of your careers, because the companies that you work for, they're not going to be able to do that. Again, why do I say that? I say that because people are going to have multiple jobs. We're coming from the world where folks used to have 1 or 2 or 3 jobs in their lifetime, and people are now going to have multiple jobs. They're going to skip, hop, and jump. And therefore, there are going to be many jobs, and you're going to have to focus on your career, on the long term, 35, 40, 50 years. What am I going to do over the next 50 years? And that requires you to really genuinely think through about one thing: differentiate yourself and compete only against yourself. Don't worry about what the next guys do. This is the time where you think about yourself and say, what am I good at? What would I love to do? I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, but that's really absolutely key. And then when you make choices about your career, because your career will go from company A to company B or job A to job B, and you will change jobs, and that's very likely, make sure that the moves that you make, they are additive or accretive. What do I mean? What do we mean by that? That one move adds to what you've done at the past and adds to it to the next and to the next. When you look back at the end of the first 5 years of your career, when you look back at the end of the first 10 years of your career, make sure that the first job you did, to the second that you did, to the third that you did, as much as possible, one was adding to the other. If it was a bar graph, it's a graph that's going taller and taller rather than you adding different bars. Because why do we say this? In the technological world that we're in, with digital, with AI, with so much that's going to get automated, and I've myself run a company that does automation for the world of insurance. It's really important that you become a specialist, you become really good at something. And therefore you keep adding on to your capabilities and skill sets, and therefore you differentiate yourself. The third element, please do find what you love and what you're good at. And if what you like doing, i.e. what you love, which is your passion, and what you're good at overlap, then you found your sweet spot. That sweet spot is really, really important. You will hear a lot of people talk about work-life balance, work and life. It's all one. When we are at home, we take care of our responsibilities. And when we are at work, it's not just pure work. We have a life to live. The best way to do this is to enjoy it every day. When you get up, you've got to feel like, oh, this is brilliant. This is what I like doing. And when will that come? When what you love and what you're good at overlap, and that's the place that you work in. You've got to be good at what you do, so you get that feedback from people. The organization gives you that feedback saying you're good. You go up that career ladder. and you see progression. If you enjoy doing that, that is what hobby you always wanted, that's what you'd like to do, then you wouldn't think about hours. You wouldn't think about work as different from life. You would enjoy it. Make sure you don't forget that, because if you do, it starts to all look like it's also. And before we move on to the next slide, just one element, a skill that's going to differentiate us in the future. That's going to become absolutely essential. It's our ability to not just learn, but to unlearn and learn again. There are so many fundamental things we do in life that we are going to question. There are so many things that are going to change. There are new elements, theoretical, in practical life, led by technology, led by research, led by the changes in the in socioeconomic changes that we're seeing. But we must be able to learn and unlearn, i.e., don't ever say, I know, and therefore that's the end of it. I know, and I'm still humble enough to know that I know there's a lot more for me to know. And therefore, just folks, read a lot, as much as you can. You can't spend enough money. It requires, the world that you are going to step into requires us to be young, if you will, young in the mind for many, many decades, because we've got to keep learning, we've got to keep unlearning, and we've got to keep staying ahead and build careers which we actually thoroughly enjoy. More avenues today for you to grow and to succeed in. You don't have to take traditional jobs, big, large organizations, if you don't want to. I would suggest do one of those to understand processes, to understand what good looks like, to get a sense of why large organizations, good organizations succeed. Because it's about people, it's about culture, it's about capital. I would suggest go work in an organization that teaches you these things, but then choose the kind of career that you'd like. 5-man army, 10-man organization, doesn't matter. Do what you really genuinely enjoy doing and create value in that journey. Folks, our parents, and so many parents will come to me and say, what's that sector that's really growing fast that I could perhaps send my son and daughter or direct my son and daughter towards? It's the wrong question to ask. It's absolutely essential that we focus on the individual. What's that child good at? And that's the question to ask. Not what sector. There is no silver bullet that's going to get us to success. So rather than asking what's growing, also ask, understand the world, understand how it's changing, understand where the opportunities are being created by all means, but also ask yourself, and very importantly ask yourself, what are my passions? What am I good at? What would I like to do? And don't worry what that is. I know someone who repairs motorcycle engines coming out of one of the top schools here in the UK, and perhaps is going to have a career which who coming out of nursing programs. We're talking about future leaders. Choose just what you are good at, what you like to do. The individual that I'm talking about who chose to be a motor mechanic, a motorcycle mechanic, and we tend to think of this as this job is not as good as that job, is actually repairing some of the most expensive motorcycles for people who race them professionally. But the one thing that individual knew was that he didn't want to be in the traditional world where he had to sit on a desk and write papers or emails, and that's not what he was good at. So find out what you are good at. So discover your passion. Remember, lots has changed between the time I said I passed out of BSS and you will pass out of BSS, but what hasn't changed is there are no shortcuts. There is no one thing that you can do. It's a journey that you'll have to live. So there aren't any shortcuts, and no one can give you a shortcut that says, here's a shortcut. What people can help you. And by all means, build that ecosystem that helps you. If you go to the next slide, please. I'll give you the success equation as I know it. And of course, you will apply it, you will change this, add to it, subtract to it. First things first, look ahead. Don't worry about where you're starting from. Don't think that somebody who's coming out of a university in a Bombay or a Delhi or a Chennai is going to do better, has any advantage that you don't have. Look ahead, don't look back. That's the starting point. Second, believe in yourself. Ask for feedback, but ask for that feedback so it reaffirms your belief in yourself. So it helps you tweak who you are. But don't be on the back foot. Don't double guess yourself. And if you see that equation, it has belief plus hunger. Stay hungry. Ask for more. Those who set their sights to big things will get big things. Don't worry about why you're setting those sorts of targets. Set a target for yourself. And then gets to the next element, curiosity and rigor. Absolutely. Read as much as you can, learn as much as you can, be good at what you do. And remember, people who are good at what they do typically are good at whatever they do. So set the goal, set the bar for yourself fairly high. Whether it's just that email that you send out and make sure you read it twice, to your daily interactions with people around you, set the bar high in whatever you do. And if you do the small things well, you'll do the big things well. And that's rigor. Don't worry about spending that 30 extra minutes, that 1 extra hour. That's what makes the difference today. But also stay very curious. Ask questions. And curiosity requires us to have that childlike sort of hunger for knowledge. And then question the given. Why? Why is it like this? What else can we do? How can we make it stronger? Right? And that will help you create value. And then along with that, build a strong support system for yourself. The world's going in a direction where we will all, and I can say with personal experience, we will all realize the importance of the support systems we have. These are friends, these are colleagues, these are family, these are parents, these are our teachers, our professors. Stay in touch with them. Ask them questions, but build that strong support system. Our careers are not going to go like a straight line graph that goes from, that always goes up. There are going to be times when you need that support. There are going to be times when you will work extremely hard. There have been enough times in my life I've gone into an office on a Monday and come back on a Wednesday, where you work overnight. When you create something really strong, you put in the hours. You don't worry about those things that I work 2 days at flat out. The kind of work that I have done in terms of mergers and acquisitions, sometimes timelines become sacrosanct. You work to those timelines. You work 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 hours. Sometimes without weekends for weeks. You need a strong support system. And along with that, keep investing in yourself. It's your health. It's the knowledge base. It's the skill sets. Keep investing in yourself. It's a lifelong investment and you have to keep making it. Don't worry. At my age, I'm thinking about it. 10 years later, I will be thinking about it. At your age, you should be thinking about it for the next as many decades as are ahead of you. So remember, investment in yourself is going to pay very rich dividends. And what does that investment mean? You decide for yourself some things that are absolutely required to succeed in today's world. Communication, logic, ability to understand technology, ability to understand how things link up with each other. Core skills in being able to solve certain kinds of problems. Subject matter expertise. Now, if all of these things are going to come, they're not just going to come on our laps. They're going to come through because we keep investing in ourselves. And investing in yourself also means investing in the support system that you have. So when you work hard, there's someone to support you. Investing in yourself also means investing in the communities we live in. Because if there is an imbalance, that whole wheel is going to wobble. If it wobbles, you wouldn't drive as fast as you can. It's great. And how will that help everyone around me? What can I do to change those lives? How do I invest back? How do I make a little bit of a difference? And if you do that, you're actually investing in yourself more than anything else, because the satisfaction that you get from that drives you, and that energy that you will get back, that feedback loop you get, will allow you to keep doing that investment, to keep doing this over and over again. So that gets you to the next point. When you get to 5 years down the road, 7 years down the road, 10 years down the road, don't lose that hunger that you have today. Stay hungry. Repeat the entire cycle again, i.e., what beliefs do I have? How can I stay curious and ensure rigor in everything that I do? How can I question the given? There will be givens. There will be givens in life. How do I question them? How do I extend the boundaries of that debate? And you will, at that stage, 10 years from now, need to build even stronger support systems. Yeah? Some of you will have larger families. Support systems become even more important. Parents will grow older. Support systems become even more important. Some friends will need help. That becomes really important. So repeat that. Remember that what you do today and the equation that you're looking at, you will have to keep going back, and this is cyclical. You will have to keep investing in yourself, and you'll have to keep repeating this. And through this entire journey, the important thing is to be grateful. Is to know that not everything is in our hands, but we are still the masters of our own future. We still go out and build our own futures. And therefore to be grateful for all those that help us to get to where we will get to, and where we have gotten to. And again, back to the point, don't compete against your colleagues, compete against yourself. If you compete against your colleagues, there will always be that one colleague who earns more, who does better. And that will only make you feel like, hey, I didn't do that. Just get better than yourself. So what you were last month, have I added value to that? And remember, if you can continue to do that, you genuinely will have very satisfying lives. You genuinely will be happy. So if we get to the next slide now. It's a Sunday afternoon, you're all sitting there, which absolutely speaks for something, which is why when Dr. Jesse reached out, I said, of course I would speak to the students. I've got something on a lighter note from you from Star Wars. There are two quotes that if you can take away that are really important. Do or do not, there is no try. Don't say, I'll try this. Give it your best. If you're going to do something, put your 100% in it. Let the hearts and minds align. Enjoy it. And the second quote from Star Wars, in my experience, there is no such thing as luck. I absolutely believe in that, friends. I absolutely believe in that. You may have a day when you've had bad luck. You may have an occasion where you've had bad luck, but you can build on it. In the long run, you can build a career that you'd like to. Don't accept glass ceilings. Think big. You decide what you'd like to be. Take all the help from the people that you can reach out to. The first place where we can stumble is by not asking. The second stage where we can, so think big, ask for help, build a support system, get people who will be your fans, who will support you, who will work for you. Believe in yourself, keep investing in yourself. I'd like to end by just wishing you a great journey ahead.